We talked about breastfeeding and suckling and all that is almost connected to it, as this is part of the chapters that deal with divorce, with marriage, and the things that make a person or a child prohibited to get married to or from. Then the jurors usually talk about a very important issue, which is custody. And a child's custody is taking care of a child when it cannot look after itself, and bring the child up looking after it physically, mentally, protecting it against anything that could be harmful to it, and so forth. So custody in Arabic is Hadana, and it is derived from the word hudun, which is when you take your lap as a cradle for a child, or when you embrace a child, this is hudun. So when you take a child, you protect a child from anything that can be harmful. And of course, custody is referred to usually when divorce takes place, because while the parents are married, by default, they both give custody to their children because they're still married. But once they are divorced, then this is where the dispute takes place. So what is the ruling? Custody is mandatory. It's obligatory when the parents are married, because they both have to take care of their children. This is their obligation in Islam. No one could say, nope, it's not my obligation, I'm not going to take care of it. They both have to take care of the children, and usually it is the financial obligation of the father, and it's the internal obligation of the mother within the house. Yet the scholars put a lot of emphasis on the father's side, because he's the one who's supposed to upbring his children. And this is called adab, how to bring him up to be respectful, dutiful, not using vulgar words, treating people with kindness. This is usually looked after by the father. Though nowadays a stay-home mom is the best person to do this, yet due to the nature of the mother, which is based on mercy and being kind and soft, this tends to be a little bit difficult. And the strictness and the discipline of the father must show in order for the child to learn and to adopt what is being forced upon him rather than being requested, as in the case of the mom. طيب. So this is understood when they are married, but what about when they are not married anymore? In this case, we have two options. Either the child is accepting different guardians or sort of custodians to take care of him. In this case, it's a cumulative obligation. As long as it is within the 5 or 10 people circle, one of them taking the responsibility is sufficient so that the others would not be sinful for that. But if the child only accepts one to be his custodian and rejects the others totally, in this case it becomes an obligation upon that person. Because if that person says, no, this is my right to take the custody or to let go, I'm letting go. If this is the case, then the child would be harmed, if not maybe killed, because the child is not accepting except that particular individual. So it becomes an obligation upon that individual. Usually, the mother is the one, if the divorce takes place, who assumes the position of the custodian. And we will come to mentioning this because this is the hadith of the Prophet alayhi as-salatu was-salam. When a woman divorced or was divorced by her husband wanted to take the child away from her. So she complained to the Prophet alayhi salatu was-salam, who in turn said, you have the right to the child ahead of him unless you get married. So this hadith is crystal clear that the one in charge of the custody, or in the one deserving the custody of the child, is the mother unless she gets married. Now this hadith is the main source for a lot of the schools of thought over the issue of custody. And believe me, it is not an easy thing to decide. It's not all black and white, because there are a number of factors that are involved. Among them would be whether the person, that is the mother, is qualified to be a custodian or to take the custody of her child or not. So the hadith basically talks about an ideal situation where the mother is a practicing woman, she takes care of her kid, and this is the norm. But there are exceptions, and due to the exceptions, it is the responsibility of the Muslim judge to look into the case and decide. And in a nutshell, all scholars of Islam say that it is the benefit of the child that counts. So after all of deliberation and looking into the father's guardianship and the mother's mercy and kindness and where the child would find itself, what counts is the benefit, the true Islamic benefit of the child. And we will come to discuss this because to be a custodian of a child, it's not only to give them money. So maybe the father is a multimillionaire and the mother is a poor woman, and people think with their own judgment that is limited that a rich father is definitely better for the welfare of the child than a poor mother. And this is not true, because taking custody means that the custodian has to look after the child's feeding, nourishment, internal and external cleanliness, and these are all materialistic things. But he has to also take care of, or she has to take care of, when and how he sleeps, plays, the affection he gets, and all other requirements. Which means that it's not only money that counts. As they say, money can't buy you love. But when a child is growing and is in need of love, this is extremely essential to be provided for the child. Now, from that hadith as well, scholars understood that always a female is given a priority over a male. And this is what the majority of scholars say, And this is debatable. So they say if we have a mother and a father, who should we give it to? By default, the mother. The hadith is clear. What about if we have a father and a grandmother, the mother of the mother? The majority of schools of thought say give it to the grandmother. Shaykh Islam bin Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on his soul, says no, we give it to the closest. Who's closer to the boy? Definitely the father. So he has more concern and care over his own child rather than the mother of his mother. And this is again a disputed issue. And this is where the Muslim judge comes in handy, because this is what judges are appointed for, to solve problems, to solve conflicts. Otherwise, why would we have Islamic courts and Muslim judges? And so many times people come to me complaining of this and that, which had happened between them and the siblings, or even them and their parents. And I would tell them, go to the Muslim court and file a case. And they're shocked. They say, Sheikh, how can we file a case against our mother? Well, if your mother made an unfair judgment, so your father died, all of you should inherit. She, as a mother or as a wife of the deceased, must get 1/8 of his wealth. Instead, she is preventing all of her children from selling the house, the different properties, the companies. She has blocked the bank account of the deceased, and the children saying that she's not giving us a penny. And our father left millions. What to do, Sheikh? Oh, the only thing possible is to go to court. Sue your mom. Oh, this is disrespectful, Sheikh. This is being undutiful. Not at all. This is your right in Islam. You're being respectful and dutiful. You're being obedient to your mom, but this doesn't mean that she has the right to steal you or to deprive you from your rights in Islam. This is what a Muslim judge is appointed to do. Therefore, whenever there's a conflict between us regarding the custody of the child, and we're unable to solve it peacefully and diplomatically, which most cases are, they're divorced. The couple were forced to separate one another due to the mistake of one of them. So the husband who divorced or who was requested for khul' has bad feelings about his wife, ex-wife. And the woman feels betrayed. He divorced me after all these years, after all what I've done for him. So they don't have good feelings, the sense, and in a way, towards one another. And this is why Allah mentioned in the Quran the beautiful verse of, through the verses of divorce, when Allah spoke about divorce and the rulings, He said, وَلَا تَنْسَوِ الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Do not ever forget the good times that were between you two. And definitely, every marriage had its good times, had its ups and had its downs. So a true just Muslim must always remember the good times and act upon them rather than seeing only the bad times and behave accordingly. So when people go to the judge with this dispute, they're asking the judge to give them a verdict where both sides would feel comfortable and accept that, inshallah, this is the ruling of the Muslim judge, which indicates that this is, with the grace of Allah, the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, rather than keep building up hatred and enmity towards one another. Solve it through the court and there is no harm done. Now, who would not accept the call of the court? Those who have hypocrisy in their hearts, because this is the ruling of the Quran and the Sunnah. If they reject it or dislike it, then they have to recheck their Islam once again.